Today we gather not in celebration, but in solemn remembrance. It has been 20 years since we said a painful goodbye to Dennis Weaver, a towering figure who graced our screens and our lives for decades. But his passing, like so many others who left us too soon, carries a weight that the official eulogies rarely touched upon. Hollywood, you see, is a master of illusion, not just on screen, but in the stories it tells about its own. When a star fades, a narrative is often crafted, carefully curated to protect an image, to avoid a scandal, or to simply bury an inconvenient truth. What we were told on the day they died was so often never the full story. Today, we declassify those files. We pull back the curtain on the secrets Hollywood prayed you'd never know, about Dennis Weaver and a constellation of other stars whose final chapters held a deeper, more profound meaning than we were ever allowed to see. Dennis Weaver. Just the name itself conjures images of strength, integrity, and a quiet, unyielding moral compass. From the rugged plains of Gunsmoke, where he patrolled as Chester Good with that unforgettable limp, to the sprawling urban landscapes of McLeod, as the Stetson-wearing lawman from Oklahoma, Dennis Weaver was a fixture in our homes, a reliable presence in an ever-changing world. He was the kind of actor who made you feel safe, made you believe in the good guys. His career spanned over 5 decades, earning him an Emmy and countless admirers who saw in him an earnestness, a sincerity that felt so rare, even then. He wasn't just an actor, he was an advocate, a humanitarian, a man deeply committed to principles far beyond the bright lights of Hollywood. He served as president of the Screen Actors Guild, always fighting for the rights and well-being of his fellow performers. He was a vegetarian, a spiritual seeker, and, perhaps most notably, one of Hollywood's earliest and most passionate environmentalists. But beneath the surface of this steadfast public persona lay a quiet, almost desperate struggle against the very forces he believed were corrupting the planet and its inhabitants. Dennis Weaver was convinced that modern diseases, especially cancer, were inextricably linked to the environmental toxins that permeated our world. He didn't just talk about it, he lived it. He built his famous Earthship home in Colorado, a self-sustaining marvel constructed from recycled tires and cans, a literal fortress designed to wall himself off from the pollutants of the modern world. He championed a clean, non-toxic, sustainable lifestyle, not as a fad, but as a conviction, a deep-seated belief in harmony with nature. This was a man who tried, with every fiber of his being, to create a pure, unblemished existence, a sanctuary from the perceived poisons of progress. He believed that by living right, by eating right, by building right, he could protect himself and his family from the unseen enemies in the air and water. This wasn't just a lifestyle choice. It was a philosophical statement, a quiet rebellion against the very industrial world that Hollywood both profited from and reflected. Then came the day, February 24, 2006, when the news broke. Dennis Weaver had passed. The official cause was listed as complications from prostate cancer. And that, dear friends, is where the silence began, where the true story was quietly, perhaps unconsciously, buried. The secret isn't a conspiracy, not in the way we usually think of it. It's a devastating paradox, an irony too cruel for an industry built on selling happy endings and control. Here was a man who dedicated his public and private life to escaping the very toxins linked to diseases like cancer. A man who built a physical sanctuary against them, yet he was ultimately consumed by it. His death was a terrifying reminder that even when you do everything right, when you fight with every fiber of your being for a pure existence, the body can still betray you. It shattered the aspirational narrative that a pure lifestyle offers guaranteed protection, a truth too random, too frightening, and too uncomfortable for an industry that thrives on predictable success stories. The man who built a fortress to protect himself from the outside world was ultimately defeated by an enemy that grew from within. He tried to escape the poisons of the planet, but he couldn't escape the frailties of the human condition. That was the inconvenient truth Hollywood prayed you'd forget. From the quiet, steadfast strength of Dennis Weaver, we turn now to a man who brought laughter and light into millions of homes, often with little more than a perfectly timed pratfall and an infectious grin. John Ritter. Oh, John Ritter! He was a master of physical comedy, a true genius who could make a simple stumble into an art form. From his breakout role as Jack Tripper on Three's Company, where he navigated misunderstandings with a delightful blend of charm and clumsiness, to his later work as the beloved patriarch on 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter, Ritter was a constant source of joy. He possessed an everyman quality, a vulnerability that made him utterly relatable, even as he performed feats of comedic timing that few could match. He was the kind of actor who made you feel like he was one of your own, a cherished family member who always knew how to make you smile. His talent wasn't just in making us laugh, it was in making us feel. making us connect to the human experience through humor. But behind that boundless energy and comedic brilliance, there were the relentless demands of a television career. The long hours, the pressure to always be on. He carried the weight of expectation, the desire to deliver joy to his audience, day in and day out. It was a pressure he bore with grace and an unwavering commitment to his craft. Then, in September 2003, the unthinkable happened. It was a Thursday on the set of 8 Simple Rules. John Ritter complained of nausea, vomiting, and a severe chest pain that would prove to be far more serious than anyone initially grasped. He was rushed to the emergency room, where his condition was tragically misdiagnosed as a heart attack. The true devastating cause was an aortic dissection, a tear in the wall of his aorta, the body's main artery. This catastrophic event, if correctly identified, can sometimes be surgically repaired. But for John, precious time was lost, and his life, so full of laughter and promise, was cut short at just 54 years old. You know, it's hard to accept when a talent like that is taken by a simple medical oversight, isn't it? It leaves a hollow ache, a sense of injustice. For 20 years, the public narrative focused on the suddenness, the tragedy of a heart attack. But the deeper, more haunting echo of Ritter's death is found in the fact that this condition, often called the Great Masquerader, continued to claim lives. Think about that for a second. Another beloved TV patriarch, Alan Thicke, would die from the exact same condition years later. The industry didn't have a conspiracy to hide. It had a terrifying blind spot it was forced to confront. The true secret wasn't a plot, but a pattern of missed opportunities, a medical truth that was simply and fatally overlooked. It was a painful reminder that even our brightest stars are vulnerable to the unpredictable cruelties of the human body. From the quick wit and physical comedy of John Ritter, we turn now to a woman who, with a single poster, redefined an era and became an icon of American beauty and strength. Farrah Fawcett. She was the sun-kissed golden girl, a symbol of freedom and effortless charm in the 1970s. Her feathered hair, her dazzling smile, they launched 1,000 trends and captivated millions. As Jill Monroe in Charlie's Angels, she wasn't just a pin-up, she was a trailblazer, a woman who radiated confidence and a certain playful independence. Her fame was meteoric, a phenomenon that burned so brightly it almost seemed impossible to sustain. But Farrah was more than just a pretty face. She was an actress who yearned for respect, who pushed beyond the confines of her initial celebrity to take on challenging dramatic roles, earning critical acclaim and proving her depth. She was a woman who lived under an intense public gaze, every aspect of her life, her loves, her choices, dissected and debated. That kind of scrutiny, that constant pressure to maintain an image, must have been a heavy burden, a hidden weight carried behind that famous smile. It's a pressure few of us can truly comprehend. The relentless expectations of an entire nation watching your every move. In 2006, the same year Dennis Weaver passed, Farrah Fawcett received a devastating diagnosis: anal cancer. What followed was a battle fought not just for her life, but also for control over her own story. As her health declined, she became increasingly disillusioned with mainstream American oncology, feeling that the conventional treatments were failing her. In a bold, almost defiant move, she became what some called a medical fugitive, traveling to Germany in search of alternative treatments, documenting her journey in a powerful, raw documentary titled Farrah's Story. This was a direct challenge to the American medical establishment, a public questioning of the very system that many, including Dennis Weaver, had come to distrust. Her tragic passing in 2009, after a very public and courageous fight, officially closed her chapter. But the secret, the link to our larger story, isn't in a conspiracy, but in a profound, shared conviction. Farrah, in her final acts, became a vocal dissenter against the very systems that made her an icon. She rejected the establishment's medicine, just as Dennis Weaver had rejected the establishment's lifestyle that he believed caused the sickness in the first place. They were two insiders who died looking for answers on the outside. The great, unspoken irony is that two of the 20th century's most defining all-American archetypes, Farrah, the Golden Girl, and Weaver, the morally unwavering lawman, ultimately concluded that the American way, in some profound sense, was a potential death sentence. They used their fame not just to entertain, but to issue a warning that the system that builds the stars might also be poisoning them. And that, my friends, is a story Hollywood prayed would be buried with them. From the challenging spirit of Farrah Fawcett, we turn to a man who embodied a different kind of American ideal, the cool, collected, and utterly charming James Garner. He was the epitome of the anti-hero with a heart of gold. Whether he was bluffing his way through poker games as Brett Maverick or charming his way out of trouble as Jim Rockford, Garner possessed a unique blend of rugged masculinity and understated wit, making him one of Hollywood's most enduring and beloved leading men. He was the kind of actor who made it all look so easy, a natural on screen. Yet he delivered performances of immense depth and nuance. His career spanned films and television, earning him legions of fans who admired his integrity, his quiet strength, and that twinkle in his eye. He was a true professional, always prepared, always delivering, always the consummate gentleman. He and Dennis Weaver were contemporaries, even co-stars in the 1966 western Jewel at Diablo. They were kings of the same television universe, portraying tough, honorable men who always seemed to find a way to overcome adversity. Their on-screen personas projected an image of invincibility, men who could face down any challenge, physical or emotional, and emerge victorious. It was a comforting myth, one that we, the viewers, eagerly embraced, believing that our heroes were somehow exempt from the ordinary struggles of life. But the truth, as it often does, eventually caught up with the myth. The records are cold, clinical. For James Garner, acute myocardial infarction, a heart attack, the final chapter after a 2008 stroke. For Dennis Weaver, complications from prostate cancer. Two titans of the screen, gone. The secret, the connection Hollywood prayed you'd never make, isn't about a hidden plot. It's about a shared, unspoken vulnerability. These were men who played indestructible heroes on screen. Yet they were both on a collision course with the leading causes of death for American men of their generation. Garner, a longtime smoker, battled the heart disease so common among his peers. Weaver fought the cancer that so many men face in private. The tragic link isn't a hidden event. It's the shared, brutal reality that their on-screen personas were a beautiful lie, and their off-screen mortality was the one enemy they couldn't beat. How often do we truly appreciate our heroes while they are still walking among us, before time and illness claim them? We watched James Garner and Dennis Weaver survive shootouts, fistfights, and every imaginable peril for decades. They embodied an American fantasy of resilience. The secret Hollywood buried is that the fantasy was just that. Their greatest heroes weren't defeated by a black-hatted outlaw, but by cellular decay and arterial plaque. They sold us the myth of the man who can't be broken, only to be broken themselves by the same quiet fragility that awaits us all. Their final performance was the one they never rehearsed, being human. From the stoic strength of James Garner, we shift now to a voice that could ignite a dance floor and stir the soul. A voice that became synonymous with joy, liberation, and pure, unadulterated passion. Donna Summer, the queen of disco. Her music was the soundtrack to an entire generation, from the pulsating beats of Love to Love You Baby to the soaring anthems like Last Dance and She Works Hard for the Money. She was a powerhouse vocalist, a magnetic performer who commanded every stage she graced. Donna Summer was more than just a singer. She was a cultural phenomenon, breaking barriers and selling millions of records with her undeniable talent and charisma. Her journey to stardom was one of perseverance, from her early days in gospel choirs to her groundbreaking success in Europe, and then, inevitably, her triumphant return to America. She brought glamour, excitement, and a profound emotional depth to popular music. Her public image was one of strength and exuberance, a woman who seemed to effortlessly command her destiny, bringing light and energy wherever she went. But behind the dazzling lights and the thumping bass, there was a woman deeply rooted in faith, a private person who navigated the immense pressures of fame with a quiet conviction. She was a non-smoker, a devout Christian, and someone who paid meticulous attention to her health and well-being. Then, in May of 2012, the world was stunned by the news of her passing. Officially, the cause was lung cancer. But the story Hollywood ignored, the truth that whispered in corners but was rarely spoken aloud, was Donna's own deeply held conviction. She believed with unwavering certainty that she contracted the cancer from inhaling the toxic dust and asbestos that blanketed her downtown Manhattan apartment in the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks. Here is the truth they never connected. The secret isn't a conspiracy, but a chilling parallel hiding in plain sight, a pattern of environmental vulnerability. Dennis Weaver, as we discussed, spent his life sounding the alarm about environmental poisons, even building his Earthship as a physical manifestation of his concern. 6 years after Weaver's passing, Donna Summer, the voice of pure escapist joy, had her life and voice tragically stolen by the inescapable reality he preached about. The link isn't that one knew the other. It's that their deaths represent two sides of the same horrifying coin. One star spent his life warning us, while the other became a tragic living symbol of the devastating real-world impact of environmental catastrophe. The devastating irony Hollywood never wanted to piece together is this. Dennis Weaver, the prophet of environmental doom, was felled by a disease heavily linked to the very toxins he warned against. Donna Summer, the queen of disco, had her life and voice stolen by the inescapable reality he preached about. He was the warning. She was the consequence. A truth far more terrifying than any fictional script, a truth that underscores the fragility of life and the interconnectedness of our world, whether Hollywood wishes to acknowledge it or not. These stories, though distinct, weave a common thread through the tapestry of Hollywood's golden age and beyond. They remind us that behind every iconic role, every dazzling smile, every heroic deed on screen, there was a human being, vulnerable, complex, and ultimately mortal. The secrets Hollywood tried to bury weren't always scandalous affairs or shadowy conspiracies. Sometimes they were simply the unvarnished truths of life, illness, and the human condition. Truths that challenged the carefully constructed illusions of invincibility. From Dennis Weaver's environmental crusade, to John Ritter's tragic medical oversight, to Farrah Fawcett's search for alternative healing, to James Garner's quiet battle with the common ailments of man, and Donna Summer's heartbreaking conviction about the air she breathed. Each story peels back a layer, revealing the profound humanity beneath the star power. As we remember these legends, let us not just recall their triumphs, but also reflect on the deeper lessons their lives and deaths offer. They were more than entertainers. They were mirrors, reflecting our own hopes, fears, and vulnerabilities. Please share in the comments. Which of their roles touched your heart the most? Or what memories their presence on screen evokes for you? Because as long as we remember them, they are never truly gone. Take care of yourselves and hold your loved ones close. Memory is the only thing that truly lasts forever.